Hello, guys. So, this is our final Winnie the Pooh story. Starting next week, I will read you different stories. If there's a story that you want to hear, you have to email me and let me know. Okay? So, here's the last story in which Christopher Robin and Pooh come to the enchanted place and we leave them there. Christopher Robin was going away. Nobody knew why he was going. Nobody knew where he was going. Indeed, nobody even knew why he knew that Christopher Robin was going away. But somehow or other, everybody in the forest felt that it was happening. Even, smallest of all, a friend and relation of Rabbit's who thought he had once seen Christopher Robin's foot but couldn't be sure, they all knew. One day, when he felt he couldn't wait any longer, Rabbit wrote a notice, and this is what it said. Notice: a meeting of everybody will meet at the house at Pooh Corner to pass a resolution by order to keep to the left, signed Rabbit. He had to write this out 2 or 3 times before he could get the resolution to look like what he thought it was going to. But when at last he was finished, he took it around to everybody and read it to them, and they all said they would come. Well, said Eeyore that afternoon, when he saw them all walking up to his house, this is a surprise. Am I asked too? Don't mind Eeyore, whispered Rabbit to Pooh. I told him all about it this morning. So they're all going to meet together and they're going to talk about what to do. Everybody said, "How do you do?" to Eeyore, and Eeyore said that he didn't not notice, and then they all sat down, and they were all sitting down. Rabbit stood up again. We all know why we're here, but I've asked my friend Eeyore, that's me, I've asked him to propose a resolution. Now then, Eeyore, he said. Don't bustle me, said Eeyore, getting up slowly. Don't now and then me. He took a piece of paper from behind his ear. Nobody knows anything about this. This is a surprise. I should therefore say that I have a letter to read to you. A letter to Christopher Robin, written by Pooh Bear. Okay, so they all wrote the letter together. And if anybody wants to clap, said Eeyore, when I'm finished, now's the time to do it. So they all clapped. Thank you, Eeyore. It's much better than mine. Well, said Eeyore, it wasn't meant to be. It was meant. So they're all going to sign their names. You see how they're signing their names? They're all writing their names on the letter. The resolution, said Rabbit, is that we all sign it and take it to Christopher Robin. So it was signed, and they all went off to take it to Christopher Robin's house. Yep. They all said hello and felt awkward and unhappy because it was a sort of a goodbye they were saying, and they didn't want to think about it. So they stood around and waited for somebody else to talk. And they all nudged each other, and they said, go on. And Eeyore went to the front. What is it, Eeyore? Asked Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin, we've come to say, to give you, it's called, written by, but we've all, because we've heard, we all know, well, you see, it is, well, to put it as shortly as possible, it is what it is. And he turned around and said, everybody crowds around into this forest. There's no space. I never saw more spreading of animals in my life. Can't you see that Christopher Robin wants to be alone? I'm going. Not quite knowing why, the others began walking away. When Christopher Robin had finished reading the letter, he said, thank you. Only Pooh was still there. It's a comforting sort of thing to have, Christopher Robin said, holding up the piece of paper and putting it in his pocket. Come on, Pooh. And they walked off. Where are we going? Said Pooh, hurrying after him, and wondering whether it was all to be an explorer or what shall I do about it now. There's all the animals reading their letter and saying goodbye to Christopher Robin. Nowhere, said Christopher Robin. So they began going there. And after they had walked a little way, Christopher Robin said, what do you like best in the world, Pooh? Well, what I like best. And then he had to stop and think. Because although eating honey was a very good thing to do, there was a moment just before you began to eat it in which it was better than when you were, but he didn't know what it was called. And then he thought that being with Christopher Robin was a very good thing too, and having Piglet was a very friendly thing too. When he thought about it all, he said, what I like best in the whole world is me and Piglet going to see you, and you saying, what about a little something? And me saying, well, I shouldn't mind a little something, should you, Piglet? and it being a hummy sort of day outside with the birds singing. I like that too, said Christopher Robin. What I like doing best is nothing. How do you do nothing? Asked Pooh. Well, it's when people call out at you just as you're going off to do it. What are you going to do, Christopher Robin? And you say, oh, nothing. And then you go and do it. Oh, I see, said Pooh. This is the sort of thing that we're going to do now. Oh, I see. It means just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear and not bothering. Oh. They walked on, thinking of this and that, and by they came to the enchanted place on the very top of the forest, which is many, many trees in a circle. And Christopher Robin knew that it was special because nobody had ever been able to count whether it was this many trees or that many trees. Being special, its floor was not like the floor of the forest, but soft grass and quiet and smooth green. It was the only place in the forest where you could sit down carelessly without getting up again, almost at once looking for somewhere else. Sitting there, they could see the whole world spread out until it reached the sky, whatever there was in the world over there with them. Suddenly, Christopher Robin began to tell Pooh about some of the things people called kings and queens, something called factors, and a place called Europe, and an island in the middle of the sea where no ships came, and you make a suction pump if you want to, and when nights were nighted. And Pooh, his back against one of the trees and his paws folded in front of him, said, oh, I didn't know, and thought how wonderful it would be to have a real brain which could tell you things. And Christopher Robin came to the end of the things and was quiet. And he sat there looking out over the world and wishing it wouldn't stop. Pooh was thinking too, and he said suddenly to Christopher Robin, isn't it a very grand thing to be an afternoon? What you said? A what? On a horse. A knight? Oh, is that what it was? I thought it was, well, is it grand to be a king and factors and all the other things you said? Well, it's not as grand as a king, said Christopher Robin, and then Pooh seemed disappointed. But it's grander than factors. Could a bear be one? Of course he could. I'll make you one. And he took a stick and touched Pooh on the shoulder. Rise, Sir Pooh, the bear, the most faithful of all my knights. So he's making Pooh a knight. So Pooh rose and said thank you, which was the very proper thing to say when you've been made a knight. And he went into his dream again, in which he and Sir Pomp and Sir Brazil and Factors lived together with a horse and were faithful knights to good King Christopher Robin. And every now and then he shook his head and said to himself, I'm not getting it right. And then he began to think of all the things Christopher Robin would want to tell him when he came back from wherever he was going to. Then, suddenly, Christopher Robin said, Pooh, what? When, when, yes, Chris, I'm not going to do nothing any more. Never again? Well, not so much. They don't let you. Pooh waited for him to go on. Yes, Christopher Robin? Pooh, when I'm not doing nothing, will you come up here sometimes? Just me? Yes, Pooh. Will you be here too? Yes, Pooh, I will be. Really, I promise I will be. That's good. Pooh, promise you won't forget about me, ever. Not even when I'm 100. How old shall I be then? 99. I promise, he said. Still, with his eyes on the world, Christopher Robin put out a hand for Pooh's paw. Pooh, if I'm not quite, Pooh, whatever happens, you will understand, won't you? Understand what? Oh, nothing. Come on. Where? Said Pooh. Anywhere, said Christopher Robin. So they went off together, but wherever they go, and whatever happens to them on the way, in that little place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. Guys, I hope you loved Winnie the Pooh. Next week, I'm going to start reading some more stories. So, again, I need you guys to email me what stories you want to hear, okay? Love you.